Alright, this is how this is gonna work. I'm gonna make a tier list of all the AI in Hunt Showdown, and you're not gonna like where I put any of these things. I think horses are S. First, we have the regular grunt. He goes in D. I think he's not a threat. You just punch him in the face and he falls over. This like if you die to this thing, it's because you were already shot or you were already super low. It's like if you were trying to fight Joe Biden. Like, these things aren't a threat. They're not fun to kill. Like, you just pop them and they fall over. It's literally just the dummies inside the training area. They're boring. Next is the knife grunt, lantern grunt, torch grunt, and the miner's helmet grunt. I couldn't find a photo, so it's just the miner's helmet. All of them, D. They're just the same thing, slightly more annoying. That's it. There's literally nothing else to them. I mean, the lantern grunt, yeah, it lets you on fire. But again, you pop it, it falls over. The knife grunt causes you to bleed. You pop him, he falls over. You don't even get to keep the knife when you kill him. So like you can't, if you came in without a melee weapon, you don't get to keep the knife. You just drops it. It's just, and yes, the minor helmet grunt sometimes gets me because, you know, it's instinct to just punch him in the face. But still, you punch him in the body once, he's dead. It's simple. The pistol grunt goes in F. The pistol grunt is literally just a sound trap grunt, and it's just super disappointing because when you kill him, you don't get to keep the pistol. Like if at some point I had like a shotgun and a bow or something like that, or a shotgun and something else, you know, something that doesn't have range, and I would want the range, and I found this guy and I got to keep the pistol. If I killed him before he hit me, that would be such a game changer. Like, it doesn't need to be a good pistol, just even like the officer. It doesn't need to be anything good, just give me something else. But no, he just shoots it, or you kill him, he drops it, it disappears, it's gone. The doctor grunt is C, because at least he gives you a med kit when he kills you, and he causes poison, which is actually more annoying than anything else, because the poison you can't see through and it can trigger other things to attack you. It's just, he's better. Now on to the actually good or different AI. All these are sort of the same, so I just sort of cycled through them real quick. We got the Hive. This bent scoliosis having old lady is actually okay. I wouldn't say she's great. I'd probably end up maybe putting her into C. Her design is cool. I think she looks very cool. She's got the hive coming out of her chest and ribcage that could burst through where the swarm comes out. And there's also some lore where you have the beetle, the bugs in the jar that you throw. I think it's pretty cool. But she's very slow, very weak. I mean, she's as weak as the other guys, and she's the slowest one in the game. And the only reason she would be a bit of a threat would be because she'd be in hard to reach spots, like on rooftops, or sometimes she sends bugs through like the walls of a building you're in to like do these tiny little gaps, because the bugs are bugged and they can make it through like pixel sized gaps. And I think that if you have something that's only really a threat or a danger is because of some bug or because it's just annoying to reach, it doesn't really count. So I think C works really well. I think the design is carrying really hard, but I think she's functional, she works. But other than that, I think she could use a bit of work. Next is the Husk. The Husk is sort of like an armored version of a zombie. I think his design would be cool if I could tell what I'm looking at, because it just looks like a stump with like old bees nests on it or something. You can't really tell what. It's also not super dangerous. He's just a little more tanky than the others, especially to like blunt damage. But he's just like, if you stab him, he dies in like 3 stabs, and obviously fire kills him instantly. A poison shot to the head with a silenced pistol kills him instantly. He's not super dangerous. He is more annoying, but again, if his design was like more like visually appealing, other than just this brown grayish stump that stumbles towards you, I think he'd be higher. But I just can't tell what I'm looking at. Like when I'm looking at him, like the only time you can really get a look at him is if you kill him and then you like look over him, but then he just disappears right away because all the zombies in this game just out of existence. They just pop out instantly. The barbed wire husk, he gets a D. He's just a more annoying version of the husk. It's nothing special. He's not like specifically more dangerous. He's just causes you to have to bleed. And even if I have a small bar, he never bleeds me down to a small bar unless I'm like, again, in a situation where I'm already having a bad time. I don't think having difficulty based off me already getting shot at or shot is a good danger metric. So he just gets D. He just could use some work. I feel like right now is a good chance to also tell you guys how I'm ranking this. So C is functional. It's good, functional, like it's okay, it's good. B is like really good. A is great. And S is perfect. Like S is like you don't need to change anything. D is like disappointing. And F is just I hate it. Next is the Immolator. I think Immolator's B. His design's cool. I mean, I've seen similar designs in other games, just like a burning zombie that runs towards you. He is the fastest, and he's probably the most dangerous regular AI in terms of, because he's got super large visual awareness. He chases you down very far. He does get stuck sometimes, so he's not an A because of that. Because like sometimes he'll just be like stuck on flat terrain and stumble towards you. And if you stab him or shoot him, he explodes into flames. And if you bring him into water, he doesn't explode if you stab him or shoot him, which I think is a cool like mechanic. We need more zombies with like mechanics other than just punch them, because all these things you can get rid of just by knocking them in the mouth. You can do the same thing here, but it's a little more dangerous depending on what you got or not. If you just happen to come without a blunt weapon, you're kind of screwed. And you just ignore him. I think he's just better, B for better, than everything else we've seen so far. Next we got the Hellhounds. I'm gonna put Hellhounds in a high C. Just because I don't think they make B, just because they got some weird bugs to them where you'll go to hit them and it just doesn't work. Like the head and neck and shoulders are all meshed into one thing, and if you miss just a little bit, you hit them in the shoulder and then you don't kill them. They always spawn in packs, which is okay, I guess, but they cause bleeding, and sometimes they have a helmet on, which you can't stab. I think the design is cool. I just don't think they are super dangerous if you're ready for them. And I often find myself just pounding my way through. That wasn't a good choice of words. Stabbing my way through the horde or the little pack, and you know, they're not super dangerous. I don't know. Meatheads are a weird one because they're not really dangerous. They're more of a physical blockade, a barrier that you can kill. They're almost like not made to be killed. Like, yeah, you can kill them and you get like perks for them, which I like, but they're not super dangerous. They're sort of just like, oh, he's in the way, I'll go through the other way, right? He's not like, you know, he can't see you besides the leeches that come at you, and you can even run right past this dude. If you sprint, you can sprint right past him and you don't even have to deal with him sometimes. He's just more of a wall you can kill for perks. But because you get perks from him, I think I'll put him in B just because he gets perks. And he's often worth the most event points out of all the AI when you kill him. So at least he's like worth killing. And he's more of just something in the way. He's not really made to be the same thing as these other guys. The Water Devil is the same thing, except there's like no point in going out of your way to kill this thing. Like, it gives a lot of XP. So if you're like XP grinding, it's fine, but it's just the same thing as the Meathead, another barrier you have to get through. But if you have gator legs, you can just sprint through the water right next to it. And oftentimes, there's just other ways around. Like, they'll be in a pond that you don't have to go through. And on the new map, especially where there's less water, if you see these things, the river's either so shallow you can run through without gator legs, or it's so small that you can just pop right through them. Or there's always like a bridge or something, or a part of the water that they can't reach you in. They're really just more of a blockade than anything. Okay, Ursa Mortis. I'm debating between A or S. I really like Ursa Mortis, how she's more dangerous than the Meathead, but if she doesn't come in the game later, then I think she'll stick in A. I think that if they add her to like forest parts, like deep forest parts, if they just like stick her in there sometimes, and if you run through the forest, like off the trails or whatever, and you bump into her, that's sort of like the danger that could be mixed in. I don't really want them to limit her health, because she's a little stronger than Meatheads in terms of like health wise, and she can actually like track you and attack you. It's like basically these two things mixed, except not on fire. It's way more dangerous than the meathead, and she's actually a threat, but she's not a boss, so which makes it great because you can put multiple of her in the map and not feel like it's, you know, overwhelming, because you can put like 2 or 3 of her in the map in deep forests or in deep thick parts of the water in the swamps. So if you decide to go through these really off-beaten paths, you bump into her, and that's the dangerous part, because in those deep forest parts or in the swamps, if they add her to the game everywhere else, S. But for now, I think she's A. She's almost perfect. It also does a bit of a disservice that you put her in a maze to where you can just keep ducking and weaving through stuff and not have to deal with her. But so far, A. She's probably my favorite AI out of every one of these things. She's great. Next, we'll get into bosses. You're really not gonna like why I put these things. Assassin F. I hate this thing. I hate this thing with a passion. Half the time, you're not even fighting it. You're waiting for it to come into the where you are to fight you. In its little bug pile form, takes reduced damage while it's duplicating itself, reduced damage, and then it's just running around the arena the whole time. You can cheese this thing with poison and fire. If you just like set up a little poison wall and sit there, she'll just keep approaching you, taking damage. But that's not, first of all, that's not a good boss fight. And second of all, that depends if you have poison or fire. If you have melee, half the time you're just waiting for her to come to you. And it's it's the longest boss fight, and not in a good way. She's terrible. Scrapbeak I actually kind of like. I'm going to put him in, I think A, a low A. Just because he's not dangerous by himself, but his mechanic of dropping loot and taking all the loot in the compound makes you approach him differently. So if you like find him early game, it's almost like not an issue, because most people carry sticky bombs to deal with bosses. You stick them, you kill him, it's whatever. But if you have to go to him mid to late game, you kind of have to prepare. So I think it's just nice to have a bit of a different mechanic for all the bosses than just, again, smack it. The Butcher gets a C. He's the same thing as, he gets a high C, I guess. He's the same thing as the Meathead, but with a pig's head on him. And he throws fire, but I mean, fire's not really dangerous when the thing you're killing gives you the health back. Unless like it was as strong as someone else we're going to talk about, but it's not. And it's kind of more rare that he throws it than he does anything else. He's just sort of a meathead with a pig's head. He's not, you know, he's good. He's solid. That's why he's in C. He's good, functional, but I think he could still be better. The spider. When I first saw Hunt Showdown, I think the demo was like 2018, 2017 or something like that. I thought this was going to be a super scary horror extraction shooter, which it is still titled as, and that the spider would be the scariest thing that we'd have to fight. It looked creepy, it looked scary, the whole trailer for it looked amazing, but instead of this super scary spider monster in an enclosed space that you had to fight, you get this tap dancing weirdo who just doesn't come and fight you whatsoever. He's like the assassin, but at least the assassin, or at least the spider you can hit with a sticky or with your melee weapon. He just runs around the arena. He throws poison at you, he bites you, he pounces on you. He's just not a good fighter, but at least, unlike the assassin, you can hit him the entire time. If you chase him around the arena, he was such a disappointment. It's almost movable down to F, but I think just for the fact that, unlike the assassin, hit this thing full time, that it goes in D, and it's a low D. Hellborn, I think is an S. I like Hellborn. Okay, he's an S, but there still needs to be some changes. He's a low S because I like everything about him, his design and everything, but he doesn't appear on any map other than Mammoth's Gulch, and only in a few spots. You'd think that because he's not bound to water like Rotjaw, that he'd have a lot more variety into where he's being put, but it's just not the case. But I like everything about him. I like his design. He's actually dangerous. His fire is actually dangerous because he hits you and does a full bar, and he throws these things and he charges you. Melee's out of the option. He's actually dangerous. He's really actually really good. I really like him. Just wish he was in more maps and in more spots. But other than that, he's S. He's really good. Rotjaw, for me, is a high A. If I can, is a high A. The only reason it's not S is because he's a little too easy to kill. She. You can just kind of dance on the edges of the water and wait for her to rush, and then you stab her, and that's about it. But with the audio changes, which I think there have been, otherwise I'm just making shit up, and the lighting changes to when she's half health, they're really, really cool. I just, again, not on Mammoth's Gulch anywhere. I understand Mammoth's Gulch doesn't have a lot of water, but it's got some water. You could put her there. If she was on the other maps and maybe was a little more dangerous on land, if those things were different, S. Now that we're done with bosses, I am going to get into the animal sound traps. I do count those as AI. The bats, I think, are S. I like the bats. You know what? A. I like bats are A. B. Bats are B. B for bats. Just because they're not everywhere. They're only in the caves. But I like that you can crouch under them. And they're high polygon, unlike some of the things down here. They just need to put them in other places. Chickens. I'm not doing this because they're chickens, but they go in C. They're not loud. They're not super, super loud. Maybe like the next compound over. And you got to shoot a thing for them. But they're kind of quiet enough. You could just kind of... You can sprint by them. And the only people that would know are the next compound. They do their job, but that's about it. They're not, you know, nothing special. But, you know, Cows. I like the cows. They go in A. I think cows are A. I like the way they sound, the little bell when they move around. Actually, B. B, because they're still really loud when they die. Like, you hit the cow. I don't know how loud that sound carries over, but when you kill them, they make a really loud moo sound. Crows, F. I don't know why in this new version of Hunt Showdown, we still have, like, 4 polygon made crows. The crows look terrible. Every other animal on this list looks decent at least like a certain closeness or whatever. Even the bats, which are so tiny you don't even notice them half the time, you just kind of hear them. The crows look terrible. They're like 4 polygons. It's awful. I don't know, like they're so prominent, and sometimes you'll be walking and you don't even hear crows, and then you step on a crow. Like the crows will stay silent or not even be there until the game decides what they should be. They're terrible. Ducks are C. Because unlike the crows, they're high poly. You know, no, D, sorry. Because they still have the problem with the crows. They, like, sometimes don't make any noise until you accidentally step on them. And then they fly. But at least they're high polygon. And I'd rather hear ducks quacking than the crows, like, making some gross crow noise. The fucking cawing or whatever the hell they do. I think horses are S. That's probably the most controversial thing on here, but I think horses are S. As a sound trap, they're loud. They've never not made noise until I was there. And they're easy to kill with one shot or knife or stab anywhere in the body. And if you find one with a saddle, they could give you a gun or a little pocket to loot that could have ammo or throwables in it. Or not ammo, throwables or money. They're just better than all the other sound traps because they actually provide something that you might want to go for. There have been multiple times where I might want a shotgun because I have a sniper and these guys are in their barbed wire havens, and I remember there was a horse down the road with a shotgun. So horses get S. The last thing are dogs. I'm not sure if it's just because the game conditioned me to hate dog barking because it's a sign of punishment that I triggered a sound trap, but I really hate the sound of dog barking. I like dogs a lot. They might go in D. Ducks and dogs in D. I just noticed that. But they're not as bad as crows. Not as good as something like the chickens, because the dogs are pretty loud. And again, I really hate that fucking sound. So this is a tier list. You can probably tell that the majority of the mid-level AI definitely needs some sort of tweaking. You know, like half the time you're killing these things, I want to enjoy killing them. And these bosses definitely need some sort of rework with the new thing. They just need to, like the assassin just needs to be quiet. An assassin, instead of this chirping pile of roaches, and the spider needs to actually be a spider and be dangerous. Let me know what you guys would put your tier list as, or what would be an S at least, because typing out a whole thing would be quite obnoxious. But tell me what you think would be an S, and tell me what you think would be an F.